I woke up that morning already tired of my own pretending. The alarm rang, soft and metallic, the kind of sound that feels like it slices through dreams. I turned it off before the second ring. My apartment was quiet, too quiet, the kind of quiet that doesn't soothe you, just reminds you that no one is there. The sunlight crawled across the floorboards, pale and indifferent. I sat on the edge of my bed, staring at the small cracks in the wall like they were a map to someplace I'd lost. Somewhere inside me. Every morning felt the same. Coffee. Shower. Work. A smile that didn't quite reach my eyes. A breath that never filled my chest. People called it routine. I called it survival. They say breathing is automatic, but mine never was. I had to remind myself to do it. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Like teaching a child how to exist. Sometimes I'd watch other people, women in cafes, girls laughing on sidewalks, and I'd wonder, how do they look so alive? How do they move like the world isn't pressing on their lungs? I used to be like them once. Or at least I think I was. There was a time when I'd wake up curious, when my life felt like something I was choosing, not enduring. But somewhere along the way, I became a collection of expectations. The good daughter. The reliable friend. The hard worker. The woman who never complains. Every version of me fit a purpose. None of them felt like home. It's exhausting, carrying so many selves that don't belong to you. You start to lose track of the original one, the one who dreamed in color, who laughed too loud, who spoke before thinking because her heart was full of something real. I lost her quietly. Not in a tragedy, but in the small moments that never made it to anyone's memory. In the "I'm fine" texts. In the forced laughter at dinner tables. In the way I stopped taking photos because I didn't like what I saw. That's the thing about disappearing, it doesn't happen all at once. It's a slow fade, like a photograph left in the sun. The city outside was already awake. Cars moved like clockwork, people hurrying toward destinations that probably didn't matter. I envied them, not their purpose, but their ability to fake it better than me. I worked in a small office, the kind of place where time goes to dissolve. My desk was near the window, but the view was just another building. I used to keep a plant there, but it died a few weeks ago. I never replaced it. Somehow, it felt too symbolic. "Rough night?" my coworker asked once, her tone casual. "Yeah," I said, smiling. "Just tired." It was always just tired. The truth was heavier. I wasn't tired from doing too much, I was tired from being too little of myself. Sometimes, during meetings, I'd drift away. I'd stare at the ceiling and imagine I was underwater. Everything muffled, distant. My breath suspended. It was peaceful, in a strange way. Quiet. That's when I realized, maybe numbness is its own kind of comfort. If you stop feeling, you stop hurting. But numbness doesn't last. It cracks eventually, under the weight of small moments. One night, I came home late. The streetlights were flickering, the kind of cold yellow that makes everything look older. I dropped my bag, kicked off my shoes, and sat on the floor in the dark. For a while, I just listened to the hum of the fridge, the ticking clock, my own shallow breath. Then something broke. Not loudly, not dramatically, just a quiet surrender. Tears came, slow and unfamiliar. My face didn't know what to do with them anymore. It had been years since I'd cried without reason, without apology. I didn't pray for strength that night. I didn't ask for clarity. I just whispered, "Please. Let me remember who I am." The words echoed in the room, soft but real. Like a small flame in a cold place. I slept on the floor that night because the bed felt too far from myself. The next morning, I woke up before my alarm. The light was gentler somehow. Maybe nothing had changed. Maybe everything had. I made coffee and stood by the window, watching the city come alive. For the first time in months, I noticed how the steam rose from my cup, how it curled and disappeared into the air. Breath. Warm, visible, alive. I took a deep one, slowly, as if learning again. It felt foreign, and yet, something inside me recognized it. That single breath didn't heal me. But it opened a door. After that day, I began to notice small things again. The way the morning light hit the kitchen counter. The sound of my neighbor's laughter through the wall. The softness of my own heartbeat in moments of stillness. Healing didn't announce itself, it just began to hum quietly beneath the noise of my days. I started journaling again, writing letters to no one in particular. Some nights, I wrote to the girl I used to be. I don't know where you went, but I miss you. I think I understand now, you didn't leave. I just stopped listening. Each word was a breath. Each page a heartbeat. There's something sacred about the mornings that don't demand anything from you. The ones where the world hasn't found you yet, when it's just you, the air, and the echo of your own heartbeat. Those mornings became my refuge. I didn't rush anymore. I'd sit by the window with my coffee, watching people pass below, and I'd wonder if they were also pretending, if they too wore masks that had begun to suffocate them. I started to understand something. We lose ourselves quietly, not because we're weak, but because we've been taught to survive louder than we live. We were told to be kind, even when it meant self-erasure. To be humble, even when it meant shrinking. To be grateful, even when our hearts were starving. I used to mistake silence for peace. But silence, the one I carried, was not peace. It was suppression. A place where truth went to die. It took me years to realize that peace doesn't mean being quiet. Peace means being honest. One Sunday, I went for a walk without my phone. It felt almost rebellious to be unreachable, unfiltered, unconnected. The air was cool, the sky heavy with clouds. There was a park not far from my apartment, a place I'd passed 100 times but never entered. That day, I did. Children were playing, their laughter sharp and pure. I sat on a wooden bench and just watched. For once, I didn't feel like I had to be anywhere else. The wind brushed against my face, and I closed my eyes. For a moment, I imagined I was 10 again, hair tangled, shoes untied, breathing without thinking. When did I start overthinking even that? It hit me, life had become a checklist. A constant negotiation between doing and being. I was always trying to earn my right to rest, to joy, to love. And the truth landed heavy in my chest. No one had asked me to perform, I had just forgotten how not to. Later that night, I looked at myself in the mirror. Not the way you glance at yourself before leaving, but the way you look when you're ready to see the truth. The woman looking back wasn't broken. She was just buried. Under years of expectations. Under the weight of should. Under the noise of trying to be everything except what she already was. I whispered, "I'm sorry." It felt strange at first, apologizing to myself. But then it softened. I'm sorry for every time I abandoned you just to be loved. I'm sorry for every time I silenced you just to be accepted. I'm sorry for thinking your softness was weakness. Something inside me shifted, a quiet forgiveness I didn't know I'd been waiting for. I began doing things that had no purpose other than to make me feel alive again. I took long showers with no timer. I walked barefoot on my balcony when it rained. I wrote poetry I never showed anyone. It wasn't glamorous. Healing rarely is. It's slow, inconsistent, and full of small resurrections. But day by day, I noticed I was breathing deeper. Not because life had become easier, but because I had stopped holding my breath through it. One afternoon, I met a friend for coffee. We hadn't seen each other in months. She studied me for a moment and said, "You seem different. Quieter. But in a good way." I smiled. "I just stopped explaining myself," I said. And it was true. I no longer filled silence with justification. I no longer apologized for resting or for not being available. I didn't owe the world constant access to me. There's a power in being misunderstood. It means you're finally living honestly. A few weeks later, I drove to the ocean. It was something I used to do years ago, before life became too full of noise. The drive was long, the kind that forces you into your own thoughts. When I reached the shore, the wind was wild and unapologetic. I stood there for a while, shoes in hand, feet sinking into wet sand. The sea breathed in waves, inhale, exhale, and I followed. It was as if the whole world was reminding me, this is what being alive feels like. The water didn't care who I had been or what I had failed at. It just kept moving, endlessly forgiving, endlessly present. I whispered into the wind. I want to be like this, soft but powerful. Changing, but constant. Whole, even when I'm shifting. For the first time in years, I took a deep breath and meant it. The days that followed felt different. Not miraculous, but honest. I wasn't chasing transformation anymore. I was practicing belonging within myself. I stopped searching for the old me. She had served her time. Now, I was learning to love the woman I was becoming, the one who carried her pain gently, who didn't need to perform joy to deserve it. There was beauty in being ordinary again. In cooking dinner for one. In folding laundry while music played softly in the background. In choosing peace over perfection. Every small act felt sacred, like proof that I was still here, still breathing, still trying. One evening, I stood in front of my open window, watching the city lights flicker like a constellation of second chances. I realized that I didn't want a louder life anymore. I wanted a truer one. The kind where I can hear my own laughter echo in empty rooms. The kind where I can walk away from things that dim my light without explaining why. The kind where I can look in the mirror and say, "You did your best," and mean it. I used to think becoming whole meant fixing everything. Now I know, it's about learning to live with the cracks and still call yourself beautiful. It's strange how peace doesn't arrive with fireworks. It comes quietly, almost unnoticed. Like the way sunlight creeps into a dark room before you're even awake. That's how it happened for me. One day, I realized I wasn't fighting with life anymore. The noise in my head had softened. The ache in my chest had turned into space, space to breathe, to be, to exist without apology. I wasn't healed. Not completely. Maybe I never would be. But I was present. And for the first time, that was enough. There was a new rhythm to my days now, slower, gentler. I woke up with gratitude instead of dread. I made my bed. I drank water. I let morning light fall across my skin without rushing to hide from it. These small things, they were prayers in disguise. Whispers to myself that said, "You belong here." I began to move differently through the world. Not trying to prove myself, not trying to be noticed, just being. And people felt it. They didn't know what had changed, but they saw it in my eyes. There was a softness there that hadn't existed before, not the kind that breaks, but the kind that bends and still holds. I no longer wanted to be the strongest in the room. I wanted to be the most at peace. There were moments when old habits tried to pull me back. The need to over-explain, to please, to chase love in the wrong places. But now, I noticed them. Awareness became my protection. I'd pause, breathe, and ask myself, does this make me feel small or safe? If the answer was small, I walked away, even if it meant being alone. Because I had learned. Loneliness with self-respect is softer than company that costs your soul. I started setting boundaries, not as walls, but as quiet acts of self-love. No became a sacred word in my mouth. A spell that created space for the things that truly mattered. Some people didn't understand. Some drifted away. But the ones who stayed, they met the real me. The one who no longer performed, who no longer smiled to make others comfortable. My conversations became deeper. My laughter became real. My silences became peaceful instead of painful. One afternoon, I went back to that park, the same one where I had first sat months ago. The same bench, the same trees, the same children playing. But something was different. Me. The air felt lighter now. The world hadn't changed, I had simply stopped resisting it. I closed my eyes and listened to the wind, the laughter, my own steady breath. I smiled. Not because everything was perfect, but because I finally understood that it didn't have to be. Healing, I realized, is not becoming someone new. It's remembering who you were before the world taught you to forget. It's peeling away everything that isn't yours. Every should, every not enough, every too much. It's learning that your softness is not your flaw, it's your power. I used to think my heart was too open, too fragile, too easily bruised. Now I see, it was just deeply alive. And being alive will always hurt a little. But it's worth it. There were nights when I'd lie in bed, the city humming outside my window, and I'd think about all the versions of me that had tried so hard to survive. The one who smiled through exhaustion. The one who begged for love from people who couldn't give it. The one who kept shrinking just to fit. I wanted to thank her. She did the best she could with what she knew. She didn't fail, she just forgot how to breathe. And that's okay. Because sometimes, forgetting is part of remembering. One morning, as I walked through the city, I caught my reflection in a shop window. For a split second, I didn't recognize her. There was something lighter in her posture, something unhurried in her stride. She looked free. And I realized I had become the woman I once needed. The one who knows how to rest. The one who says no without guilt. The one who chooses peace over approval. I used to think I needed to rebuild myself. But no, I just needed to return. Return to my own rhythm. Return to my breath. Return to the girl who once believed she was enough, because she always was. Now, when people ask me what changed, I tell them this. I stopped waiting to be chosen. I chose myself. I stopped trying to be understood. I learned to understand myself. And I stopped holding my breath through life. Now, I breathe deeply, freely, fully. Sometimes, I sit by the window at night, watching the city lights flicker like quiet confessions. And I think about how far I've come, how I once mistook survival for living. How I once thought I had to earn love, earn rest, earn joy. Now I know, I was born deserving. And that truth, once remembered, changes everything. These days, I still have bad moments. Days when the world feels too heavy. But instead of running from it, I breathe through it. Because that's what life is, not the absence of pain, but the presence of breath. And as long as I'm breathing, I know I can begin again. Tonight, I'm sitting here with a candle flickering beside me, and I feel something I haven't felt in years: wholeness. Not perfection, not bliss. Just wholeness. I understand now that being whole doesn't mean being untouched. It means carrying your scars with grace. It means knowing that every version of you, the broken one, the lost one, the healing one, they all built this moment. And I honor them all. So here's what I've learned. You don't need to chase becoming someone new. You just need to remember who you were before you forgot how to breathe. The girl who laughed too loud. Who dreamed without fear. Who loved without calculation. She's still here, under the layers, waiting for you to look her in the eyes and say, I remember you. I used to think healing would look like fireworks, like some grand arrival. But it doesn't. It looks like peace in your morning coffee. Like music that feels like home. Like laughter that doesn't ask for permission. Like finally exhaling after years of holding your breath. It looks like this moment, right now. You, alive, listening, remembering yourself. I forgot how to breathe once. But I found my way back. And when I did, it was like the whole world exhaled with me. Because when one woman remembers herself, when she finally stops running, stops apologizing, stops pretending, she doesn't just save her own life. She reminds the world what softness looks like. What strength feels like. What it means to be truly alive. She forgot how to breathe until she remembered herself. And when she did, the whole world exhaled with her.